Oh my goodness, y'all. Listen up. First of all, welcome to episode 6 of Clinic in Your Ears. This almost didn't happen. I recorded it, but guess what? I made that one fatal error. I didn't save it. So we're doing this again. I went to go upload for today, and that's when I realized that it wasn't there. I had already cleared my recording deck, which means I just completely glanced over it and hit delete. But that's okay, right? Sometimes a second go around's even better. That's why we do reps, right? Because each time is a little bit better. So that's what's happening here, right? That's what I'm going to tell myself. So this one today is we're going to talk about our look, the unified look. And I want you to understand something. This isn't just for guard. This is for you guys too. Because here's the truth. If your line doesn't look the same, you'll never sound the same. You can call it guard, you can call it visual, but I'm telling you right now, drumline is visual too. And if you ignore it, you'll stay dirty forever. Now let me backpedal for just a second, because you've heard me say it before, that I'm not a fan of visuals. Those are tricks. I'm not a fan of those because they're disruptive. If done right, they're great. But at your level, where we're at right now, let's just keep it clean, right? So what are the core concepts of this? The what, not the how. Because honestly, the how happens when I'm standing in the room with you. When I'm there with my eyes on your process, on what you're doing, on your grip, on your stick heights. There where I can immediately give you feedback and correct what might be wrong. So what we're going to talk about is just the what. What exactly is it? What exactly it is, so that you can apply that and we can hold true to our mentorship by audio, which is what we're doing here. And yes, this is a different kind of clinic, but it's still the same concept. You'd still hear these same things if I was standing in the room with you. What's missing is the practical application of what I'm going to tell you guys here. So let's start with the grip, right? If one player has relaxed fingers and another has a deft grip on the stick, the hands aren't going to move the same. Look at it like this. The difference between a concert percussionist and a marching percussionist. They have a different approach. They have a different posture. They have a different grip. They have a different fulcrum pressure on the stick. A concert percussionist is more relaxed, more legato, more so than the legatos I would teach a line on a drum line. As a concert percussionist, we're focused on pulling the sound out of our instrument, not pushing it through it. It's a subtle difference, but you'll understand when I'm standing in front of you to show you the difference. But a concert percussionist has a softer grip, a more relaxed grip, because that produces a more relaxed sound. A marching percussionist doesn't have a tight grip, but they have a more controlled grip, a more intentional grip, because that produces a more intentional sound, more articulation. There's a lot of things that go into this that we're going to talk about in a brief few minutes here. But you look at a marching percussionist, there's no gaps in the fulcrum. You know, that's where your thumb meets your index finger. There's no gaps there. I see a lot of lines these days where that grip is kind of loosey-goosey, kind of like you're a concert percussionist and you're holding a snare drum. You're not going to have the control that you need to have on your stick because your fingers aren't touching the stick at all points. There needs to always be contact made with the stick in order to maintain control of it. So your grip is very important here, and it must look the same across the board. We all must have the same approach. We all must have the same pinch. We must have the same fulcrum. We must have the same angle of attack. And that's where we start looking at stick angles. The angle at the beads, the angle of our arms, the angle of our of our motion traveled from the top to the bottom into the head. If those don't line up, sound won't line up either. And it won't look right. If you all don't have the same approach and don't all look the same, it's going to sound different. Having our sticks move in different planes can compromise the velocity of the stick when we're listening across the line and we're listening to our peer next to us. When we're trying to line up the pulse, when we're trying to listen vertically at that point, we're going to have phasing just from one person to the next because our angle of attack is different. So your angles and stick heights are very important right here. So our grips and angles are going to matter very much in cleaning our line. Now let's talk about where you actually strike the head. Tenors, if you're hitting different zones, you're going to get different tones. And your instructors spend a painstaking amount of time tuning each piece of the tenor drums to sound the same from drum to drum. And if you're striking different zones, you're getting different tones, and just the sound alone is going to make it sound dirty, even if you're in perfect time with one another. That change in articulation will sound like dirt. Same goes for the snares. If you're wandering around the head, if you're not locked in where you need to be, you're going to produce inconsistent sound because the head has a different rebound equation when you move about the head. If you're not in the same place, you're going to have different rebound velocities coming back at you, and there's no way you're going to be able to compensate for that, and you will be dirty every time. Bass drums, you need to make sure you're striking your drum in the middle of the head. The more off axis you get from the center of the head, the more resonance you're going to produce from your drum. And in some cases, that will be written in, and we'll be sure to make sure that you're all attacking the drum at the same place. But you must have that articulation within the bass line. Because you have a lower frequency coming out of your drum, it takes it takes longer for it to be reactive. And if you all aren't in the same place producing the same articulation, you're going to produce a muddy sound. And because the bass line is the heartbeat of the pulse, the center of the vertical listening, if you guys are off, that's going to throw the balance of the whole ensemble off, and everybody's going to be out of time. So that's why those playing zones matter. Now for the next part, our look, the uniform look. If we're all striking the drums in the same place from the same angles, we're going to become more and more uniform. But that uniformity is the judge's first impression. And not just the judges, that's the audiences as well. And here's the thing. Judges and audiences don't need a mic to tell if you're inconsistent. Because if you're not uniform, they're going to see it. And that visual dirt will translate into audible dirt. And I don't know if that's more psychological than it is practical. It's a little bit of both. If you look dirty, you're going to automatically sound dirty. That's just the way the human brain works. That's how we perceive it. But if you look like a unified unit, even if the unified unit is dirty, which typically it's not that bad, you're just going to sound that much better. So the way you stand, the way you hold your sticks, the way you breathe before you play, all of this is part of the ensemble picture. It all plays into the fact of, are you clean or are you not? You may not be perfectly clean, but if you look clean, you'll sound cleaner. And I hope that makes sense. I know we talk about, we don't want to judge people just from the way they look. But that is what happens. When you don't look the part, when you don't look like a professional line, you won't sound like one. So just to wrap this up, because we're going a little long, I've got a unified look checklist that's coming. And the reason it's going to take me a little longer to produce this one is I want to produce this document for you guys with visuals of clean versus dirty grips, zones and angles, things like that. So you can actually put eyes on what I'm talking about. That will make this lesson hit home a little easier. I will put that on the Buy Me a Coffee page. It will be available for everyone in the teaser version. There will be an expanded version coming with even more in-depth talk and description of what I mean here. That one you can get for $10, or if you're a monthly supporter, you can have access to all of the expanded guides, plus all the other documentation that's on the Buy Me a Coffee page. Some of it might not even apply to you, but do know that you can access all of those things for monthly support. But the full version, where this all comes to life, That's what happens when I'm in your room, calling out every stick angle until they match. I'm looking down the side. I'm looking at you from the top. I'm looking at every angle to make sure that we are matching. That's where that happens, is when you book me to come to your school. So here's today's takeaway. Looking clean and sounding clean are the same thing. If you want your line to sound professional, they have to look professional too. We just said that. There's a terminology that I used to use a lot when I would do corporate training for people. And that was act as if. Act as if you know exactly how this is supposed to go. And here's the thing. There is no acting here for you guys. You know what you need to do. So act like it. Look like it. And embody that. So share this with your section. Make them listen. Follow this podcast for tomorrow's drop. And support me on Buy Me a Coffee if you want the Unified Look Checklist expanded version, or all the other ones that we have done. And again, if you want the full fix, the kind of visual discipline that transforms sound and sells it to the judges, book me for a clinic. Because clean isn't just what you hear. It is also what you see. Thank you for being here with me today, guys. We'll see you on the next one tomorrow. Can't wait to see you there.